welcome to Something to Talk About, and Happy New Year. Welcome, and thank you for joining us this evening. If you have a question for my guest, whom you will meet momentarily, we are live, so you can always give us a call at 781-270-9199. It's been a while since I've had to say that phone number, so I want to make sure I give it to you correctly. You can also email me anytime, night or day, by emailing talk@bcattv.org. If you have a suggestion for a future topic or know someone who, have a question and you didn't quite remember during the show, you can always email me. So that would be great. And a few more housekeeping. I feel out of practice for this. A few more housekeeping rules. I would like to thank the crew for this evening who gave up their Wednesday evening again. Chris Flaherty and Liz Gillespie are here holding down the fort, and I do thank them for that. And I definitely want to thank my husband, Paul, for staying home for Daddy Date Night. Hopefully everything is cool at the McNamee homestead. Now, all that's aside, I would like to introduce my wonderful guest. I think it was, who was it? Anyway, I had a beautiful quote to think of when I was driving over here and I forgot. So I'm just going to introduce my wonderful guest, Amy Goober, who is the founder of Drive Your Life. Yes. And you're an action coach. Mm-hmm. Want to find out what an action coach does, and a certified life coach. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. This is like wonderful.
It's great. So fun.
And I met your daughter we were talking about this before. I met your daughter a few years ago when she was on.
Yeah.
And now I know you.
That's right. I said, oh, well, maybe I'm more than just Jesse's mom now.
But I think you will always be Jesse's mom.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's something that won't change. But anyway, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Before we really delve into the subject, can you let us know a little bit about yourself? Sure. Where you grew up, how you came to the Burlington area, if you were not from around here, and what's the path you took to eventually drive your life?
Yeah, it's kind of a winding road path, I would say. So I was born in New York on Long Island. I grew up there.
Okay.
And then I left to go to college.
Don't detect an accent, which is pretty.
Yeah, well, I don't know, and I've lived here a long time. So I went to college at Cornell in upstate New York. Sort of, it was the sticks then, even more so than now.
Okay.
And then my best friend and I decided to move to Boston. Like, we thought we wanted to go to like a young city. We were young, I don't know. It was a good idea at the time. And we just sort of settled.
Boston is a really cool town.
So fun. We had like a basement apartment in Back Bay, and we had like I know, it was tiny though. It was like one of the bedrooms was definitely a closet. I don't know.
Had to leave the room to change my mind.
I was crazy. So then I tried to get my first job, and in those days,
what'd you major in back then?
So I majored in psychology.
Oh, okay. Or was I not supposed to ask that question?
Oh no.
Okay.
I majored. It all comes back around. You'll see.
Okay.
So I majored in psychology, and then I was, trying to get my first job, and it was 1981. So there were no computers. Shocker. No computers, and really, women at that point, no matter where you went to school, started as secretaries. This is what I learned. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
So.
Well, who wants to know this? Who wants to believe it? Oh, but I'm going to be different. I'm going to,
Yeah. So my first job ended up being as a secretary in an advertising agency.
Oh, okay. In Boston?
Yep, 5 blocks away, and that was like just the greatest job. Not that being a secretary wasn't so great. I felt like really I was just typing somebody else's words and answering somebody else's phone. It was very like Mad Men. Like if you know the Mad Men show, it was a lot like that. So I did that for 4 years, and I really sort of felt like I wasn't utilizing my real
your Cornell
capacity,
degree,
or just even my brain at all.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, in the meantime of that, I had always loved to decorate cakes.
Ooh,
so I know, you'll see, it's a funny story. So as a child, like 6, 7 years old, my mother and I would decorate cakes. Not that she was a cake decorator either, but like, we used
fun.
Like that plastic punch. It was really fun. So through my years, it really became like more than a hobby.
Oh,
so
okay.
I always brought my cake decorating stuff through my photo albums everywhere.
Wow,
There's cake. So I
okay.
was really into cake decorating. So while I was working at the ad agency, I took a cake decorating course.
Ooh.
And then I taught a cake decorating course at
Wow.
the Boston Center for Adult Education, all while I was working like as for fun.
But you needed that, mental stimulation,
So it was fun.
intellectual
Right.
stimulation.
So I was working my way up to be an account executive at the ad agency, and I was like having fun with these cake decorating classes. And each class, you ended with a cake. You brought in a cake and you decorated it.
Okay.
And at that point, I lived with one friend, then I lived alone. So I would bring the cakes into the ad agency because what was I going to do?
Well,
with a
everybody
cake?
else,
So
that's why you have an office to
Right.
bring food to.
Right.
Okay.
So it kind of created a buzz. And people were like, oh my God, you're so good at this. You should open a bakery. You should think about opening a bakery, they said. And I think most people at that stage would have said, oh, I'm not doing that.
You're like, okay.
And I was like, maybe. And so I got to the account executive level, which is what I was working toward for 4 years. And I was really excited about that. And I kind of looked around and I was like, this isn't really for me.
This is great, but it's not fun anymore.
So I literally quit my job and started a business called The Icing on the Cake.
Wow.
And what is so funny about this is so I was 26.
Okay. Wow. I would not. The cake decorating thing would be a blast, but I would be so terrified of starting my own business.
I think I was like too naive and too young to be terrified. So I'm 26, and I say to my mother, I think I'm going to open a bakery. And she's so amazing and so supportive. And she goes, well, that's great, but do you think maybe you should talk to somebody and make a business plan? I was like, oh no, I don't.
Who needs a business plan?
She said, do you think maybe you should? Why don't you work at a bakery? First, oh no, So I was very determined. And
Did you take any of your mother's advice? No.
Throughout the years, yes, but at that point, no, I just did it. And so I found space in Newton, and I was living in Boston, and I opened this bakery, The Icing on the Cake,
Wow.
by myself.
Wow.
I did not even know what I was doing. Anyway, that could be a whole show, but moving on. So I did that for 7 years and built.
Well, obviously you knew what you were doing.
I built a really fun business, and it was like a cake boss business. There was no cookies or anything else. It was all like decorated, big, corporate, really cool.
Wow.
Crazy. I have stories, so many stories. So crazy things, cakes for
Okay.
1,000 people. I mean, crazy stuff.
That's a lot of cake.
It was a lot of cake. So, long story short, in the meantime, I got married and had my first child, and I said, okay, that's it. I'm not working in this bakery anymore.
Yeah, no.
And I sold it to 2 of my employees.
Oh, wow.
And the PS of it all is they are still there now. So, so 4 people are working there now that worked there when I worked there. So for 34 years.
Do you still go back and visit it all?
Like a little
or-
bit, and my daughter's engaged, so we went and ordered her wedding cake there, which was like unbelievable,
They better
So
have given you a good
yeah. So anyway, so that was a whole chapter of my life. So then I said,
wow.
okay, I'm done with that, and I had my first child, and then I was a stay-at-home mom. I have 3 what are now adult children. I was a stay-at-home mom for 16 years, and then we're getting there. We're getting there.
No, it's okay. We got a whole hour.
I know. And then, and I loved
But
that.
wait, there's more.
There's more. I did a lot of volunteer work. We raised money for the playgrounds in Burlington. I mean, we did a lot of important, work, but not. It
You
wasn't
just don't
a
get
job.
paid for it. Oh, it's still work.
Yeah.
Being a stay-at-home mom is a lot of work.
Yes. So it was great though.
No
That-
vacations.
Yeah, that was my greatest joy was that. So now my kids are getting older. I'm like, well, I can't keep saying I'm a stay-at-home mom. My youngest is in middle school. I never see her. She's never home. So, so I was at a stage in my life where I was trying to lose weight.
Aren't we all?
Which was, a constant in my life. I had always been trying to lose weight because I was overweight when I was younger. So, long story short, I tried this program. I'm 53, so we're advancing by the years. And I tried this program, this weight loss program, and I was so skeptical about weight loss at that age. But long story short, I tried it. It worked great. I loved it, and so I became a health coach
Oh,
for that program.
cool.
So that was in 2013.
Okay.
So I did that, and I've been doing that, and I'm still doing that for 8 years, and I loved
Being
that.
the
health coach for
Okay.
this weight loss and wellness program.
Okay.
And I loved it. I loved helping people. I loved working from home. I did a lot of travel, a lot of trainings.
wow.
Went to nurse practitioner shows. I mean, it was really a very
Wow.
rich, enriching, great experience. And I loved having my own business, but it was a virtual business, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's what I think many people would have continued doing, and I am still doing it. But
wait, there's more.
now we're finally
Need that, intellectual stimulation.
we're finally getting to answer your question.
Okay.
So
Well,
sorry
no, this
for
is
the-
part of it.
It is part of it. So last year, actually for 2019, so a little over a year.
Okay.
I was turning 60. So I knew I was turning 60. It was not a surprise. And as I was approaching my 60th birthday, I was thinking about that milestone birthday. And my youngest child, who's the one that you know, was leaving to go to college,
Okay.
moving out of the house, which she was supposed to do. And I just said to myself,
And when she's done, she's going to move back. No.
yeah, well, I don't know, but I just said to myself, look, what am I going to do with myself?
Yeah.
I have a full-time gig as a health coach, but a lot of my energy and time was focused on her, and I wanted to fill that void with something really meaningful. And my older daughter said to me, what are you going to do, Mom? What else are
Yeah.
you going to do? And she really got me thinking. And I
Did
decided.
she offer any suggestions? or-
She said you should be a life coach.
Oh,
You could go
okay.
back to school. You could do this. She really felt that I could help people beyond the health coaching. So
Oh, okay.
I thought about it, and that was the whole creation of Drive Your Life.
Cool. Now, I do want to find out more about it, but is Drive Your Life yours, or
Yes.
is it part of?
No.
Okay, so you just how'd
I-
you come up with the name?
I came up with it.
Life's a journey, not a destination. That's
Yeah.
the quote that I was thinking of earlier.
Yeah, no, I came up with it because I really wanted to come up with something that would help women move forward in their lives.
Okay.
And
And not be stuck like
yeah, and it
you
just came to
discovered.
me. It's
Okay.
all about really taking control of your own life.
Okay.
And getting back in the driver's seat. And so a lot of it, there's a lot of car analogies that I
Okay.
use. Also, and I tell this story in my group, I won't go into the long story of it, but when I was 15, my father died. I was in high school.
okay. Oh, that's gotta be
And that was, of course, horrible and very difficult. But why I tell the story is because within that year I had to learn how to drive, right? You learn how to drive at 16.
Oh, okay.
And it was really a difficult time because my poor mother had to be in the passenger seat. And it was really challenging. It was challenging for her, it was challenging for me. The cars were gigantic.
Oh yeah.
And so I really
When
didn't
was
drive
this, like
very much.
mid 70s, early?
Yeah,
early 80s?
1976.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And
We
the
had
car was like
big
a
old
tank.
station wagon.
The car was
Oh,
like a
they
tank.
were.
Yeah. And so we went through this process, my mother and I felt bad for her and she felt bad for me. And in the end, I did get my license, but I really was not a driver. I didn't like driving. I was kind of afraid to drive, so I really didn't drive very much.
Okay.
And then over time,
Well, if you grew up in, the New York City area, you probably.
well, it
well, you
was
were
in
in Long
suburbs.
Island.
It was kind of like
Okay.
like a Burlington.
Okay.
But so what's so interesting is I went through all that time not having to drive. I went to college, nobody had cars. I moved into Boston, I walked to work. It was only when I rented the space at the icing on the cake that I had to learn how to relearn how to
Oh,
drive and get a
okay.
car and drive.
Yeah.
And then drive all around Boston delivering people's
cakes.
wedding cakes.
Oh,
So
man,
it'd
no
be-
pressure.
Yeah. So I think I realized that, everybody drives. People do without thinking. And I think I just thought, you know what, if I can figure out a way to do that and in such a challenging way, what else, what can other people do? And so that's kind of how the whole Drive Your Life idea came up.
So, what exactly does a life coach do? I know that's not that's a pretty big question. I realize, but I mean, does it? There are career coaches, there are health coaches.
Right.
I mean, being a life coach, that's kind of a big umbrella.
Right, and I don't really call myself a life
okay.
coach, but it's okay. So I call myself an action coach
There we go. Okay.
because the way that Drive Your Life is set up is to help people figure out what is the one thing in their life that they want to either improve or explore. So we're not like changing people's lives. Most people's lives are awesome, you know, so we're not going to like flip the whole thing and assume the worst. But for most people, there's probably at least one part that they want to improve or change or explore or develop or whatever. And so I help them get into action.
Okay. Do they already have this thing identified, or?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. We go through like a whole process where they figure out what it is they want to work on. I teach them a step-by-step process, and they can use that for what they're going to work on in the group, or they can use it down the road for other things. So it's really a process they learn. It's like a skill set that they learn.
Because I was wondering about that, because I'm like, you know, if you from your website, it looked like you could help someone with a career transition.
Right.
Well, once they're done with that, then they might want to do this. Because I'm also thinking, you know, my own personal life, my goals when I was single, like when you moved to Boston, are totally different than my goals after I got married. And then, as you are more than well aware, your life totally changes when you have kids. So your goals and your life is constantly being
right. And I feel very strongly that I guess I found this out from a lot of the women that I was health coaching. And then I just looked around at people I knew, you know, friends and acquaintances, and I felt like women were so busy serving everyone else, right? I mean, which we love. So I'm not.
Well, it's just our nature.
Right. It's our nature, and it's our great pleasure. Like, we love to take care of our children and work hard and whatever it is, our homes.
Because we're the type A personality. No.
But like, if you think of what most women are doing on the daily, you know, they're taking care of their own children. They could be taking care of their parents. They've probably got siblings. They've got friends. They may have a spouse or a partner. They may not. They probably have a home. They're buying food. They're doing everything, and a lot of them are working or they're entrepreneurs. I mean, there's so much juggling that they're doing that it's very commonplace that they don't stop to think, what do they want? And that's really what I'm about, is helping women figure out what is maybe the one thing they do want to kind of take control of, and then teach them how to, once they've figured it out, how to take action and how to move forward. Because a lot of the women that I've worked with, when I ask them, well, how long have you wanted to do this, whatever the this is, they'll say like a year or 2 years or 3 years, and you're thinking to yourself like, oh my gosh, you know, why haven't you done it? Well, why haven't you done it? Because who has like a minute to even breathe? But if you give women a focus and an hour a week or whatever you give them, they really thrive with that. And it's common, right? When was the last time someone said to you, you know, so how are you doing? And, you know, how's everything going? And what do you want to do? I mean, it's just not done. And I think we're raised very much not to do that because it feels selfish, and we don't want to appear selfish or self-centered, right? Those are like negative things that women feel. And so they don't want to think about themselves. But really, why not? And shouldn't we all be happy? And shouldn't we all be doing what we want to do or what we can do? So that's really what I'm about, and helping people learn how to move forward and take action. And one of my quotes that I love is Sir Isaac Newton says, an object in motion stays in motion, right?
Yes.
So I'm not a scientist in any way, but once people get started, it's a lot easier to keep going.
That's true.
What's really hard is starting.
How do you deal with motivation?
Yeah, well,
because that's a big one. You know, it's like, yes, I want to do that, but just like you said, you know, with Isaac Newton, how do you take that first step?
Well, the first step that the people I work with take is they join my group. And and they not even sure, I know for a fact, they're not even really sure what it is. Like, you know, they read the website, they know they're going to make a change, but, you know, they can't predict what it is. And once they're there, and we ask them, like, well, what do you think? Like, I have them close their eyes, and I say, what's the first thing that pops into your mind in your life that you want to change? They talk about it. They know what it is. They know what it is. They just don't know how to do it. They don't know when to do it. They don't know if they should do it, but they know what it is.
Yeah, if is a big thing, you know.
They know what it is. It's so interesting. And it could be anything. Like it could be career, it could be a love relationship, you know, getting in one, getting out of one, finding one. It could be finding a passion project. It could be health and wellness.
Okay.
It could be creating healthy meals for your family. It could be cleaning out your house because you're going to put it on the market. I mean, everything. I mean, I've seen so many different goals, and the process really works for anything.
Oh, okay.
So I've seen, anyway, so far.
Because I'm thinking, you know, some of those, I'm trying to envision how they would not be different approaches to certain things. But, okay, you mentioned like relationships.
Yeah.
You know, how to change a relationship, whatever direction it's going.
Yeah.
No matter what your approach is, your belief system, you're always dealing with someone else.
Right.
So how can they get that other person to buy into the idea?
Well,
Because don't they have to be on the same wavelength?
So I'm a firm believer in the things you can control and the things
Okay.
you can't control, and that's really what I teach.
Kind of like a pick your battles type thing? Or no, not quite?
Not so much that, but it's more about, you know, the only behavior you can control is your own.
That's true. Okay.
So in a relationship, what I teach is, you know, how can you change your behavior? You're not going to change the other person. And people feel so great about making positive steps in the right direction that it's that same thing I was saying before, like an object of motion. You know, what I see is once women really just start doing something, almost anything in the right direction, they feel better, they feel more confident, and it really pervades other things. You know what I mean? They just start to feel like they're in control. So the relationship piece can be challenging, but everything's challenging.
Yeah.
But it's challenging if you don't do anything about it either.
That's true. Well, I'm just thinking of like my own life. It's like I have interests and hobbies, and yes, I have two small, or not, they're not small anymore, but you know, a 10 and a 12-year-old. So I'm involved in both of their scouting programs and love doing that stuff. But my basement really needs to be cleaned.
Right.
But I'm having too much fun over here. So how do you find that balance?
Well, don't forget when they...
Because I don't want to clean the basement.
Right. But I guess I would say about that is when women come into my group and they decide that they're going to focus on cleaning their basement.
Okay.
They do want to clean their basement. They just don't want to do it.
They just don't want to do it.
But they know they need to do it.
Okay.
So for you, it sounds like it's like really low on the list. But if I was working with you, right? Right? If I was working with you and I said, "What do you want to do?" and that was it, you'd be doing it because we'd come up with the steps and you would be doing it. So, look, there's a lot of things in life we don't want to do. Right? So then there's like the have-tos and the want-tos.
Right.
And we talk about that.
Needs and wants.
Right.
You know.
We talk about focus and all these things. You know, there's a lot of obstacles for people in moving forward in a lot of different ways. And we acknowledge all that.
Sometimes it's financial.
Yes.
You know, I love to travel. Well, the reality of my traveling, not during a global pandemic, is a lot financial. So how do you approach something like that?
Well, then you have to figure out how badly do you want it, and what are you going to do to get it.
Okay.
And so if it's travel, or if it's, you know, stepping up to a bigger home, or if it's a new car, or whatever it might be, then we figure out how are you going to get it.
How do you change?
How are you?
How do you get all the pieces in place?
Right, and we have like a whole lot of motivation tools and things that we teach, that I teach, because people have to be able to do what they want to do.
Okay.
You know, I don't just like, it's not like we wave a magic wand and poof, there they go.
So nice.
You know, it takes time and it does take motivation, but the group setting is like such a sweet spot for all of this. I mean, it truly is. And I knew that I wanted to do small group, but I didn't, you know, I couldn't picture it. You know, I just set it up that way.
Okay.
And I have, every session am amazed. Every session just am in awe of, you know, I teach the lesson and then they talk and then as the weeks go by, they become more transparent with each other, right? They share more and they're more open and they're more trusting, and they help each other, like to the point where somebody asks a question and I in my mind think, okay, this is how I would do it. And I pause, which is not very easy for me to do, but I do. And I'll say, like, well, what do you guys think? And the pearls of wisdom, the ideas, the things that
So you're learning stuff at the
oh
same
my gosh,
time.
how they help each other, like, it's just amazing.
Wow.
So that's another great part of what I've seen in almost really every single person that's been in my groups. They just want to help each other. I mean, they need
Go
help.
back to the female nurture, need to
Yes.
nurture, need to, type A
Yes.
personality.
Yes, it's amazing how excited they get for each other. And when they see the growth and the steps forward in each other, they feel like, they feel some pride in that because it's part of the
I
group.
helped.
Yeah.
How big are these groups?
So I cap
mean,
it at 8. So I have
okay.
no more than 8, especially on Zoom. I feel like 8 is plenty.
Start feeling like the Brady Bunch after that.
Yeah, 8 is plenty, and I think on the weeks when this one can't come and we record it or that one and it gets a little smaller, it's fine. And I've done much smaller groups too.
Okay.
And there's great, lots of things happen depending on the size of the group.
Okay.
I think.
And when somebody joins the group, do they usually join it individually or do they drag a friend along? I mean, because like you had said, you have to build this trust. And if it's in a small group setting, it's always nice motivation-wise as well as like security to already have somebody there that knows you.
Right. So every single group up until the most recent one, nobody really knew each other.
Okay.
And, I knew them, or I might have known them. Some of them I didn't know. And I think there's great magic in that because they come into the group unknown,
Okay.
right? And they tell their story and they introduce themselves and they go through the whole thing. So nobody knew them before. So they don't have to put on anything, They are who they are from that moment of week
Okay.
1. And many of them have said how much they really enjoy being in the group and not knowing anyone.
And meeting new people.
But meeting new people, making connections, and not having to put a certain facade on or be remembered for a certain thing. Like they can be what they are in the group, which is really nice. And in my most recent group, I have a pair of sisters, so I've never had that. And the one sister was talking and the other sister was clapping, was so excited for her. So I think that's gonna work out great too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this?
Okay, so I've only been doing this for the last half of last year. So 5 months. I started in the middle of
A global pandemic.
Yeah, in the middle of the summer, I launched it, and I launched a Facebook group, which I've grown, the Drive Your Life group, which people really engage in, and we do a lot of really cool challenges and speakers and all kinds of really neat things in there.
Well, what kind of challenges, though?
So, oh my gosh, so I've done a challenge almost every month in the fall. So we did a Tri-tober challenge. So for every day, we had experts come in, and we had one of our personal chef came in,
Ooh.
and she did a demonstration, and she challenged them to put more colors on their plate. And then the next day,
M&M's.
yeah, no,
sorry.
not M&Ms. Fruits and vegetables. And then we had a personal trainer, and she challenged them to get their steps in the house. And I challenged them to try new things. So we did a Tri-tober one. We did a November to Remember, and we challenged them leading up to Thanksgiving because a lot of people were really discouraged about Thanksgiving. They couldn't see their family. It wasn't going to be the same. So I really tried to bring joy into the group, and we had somebody talk about a festive table. We just tried to make it fun and different so that they would have something to hang on to. And then we did an end of the year one leading
fun.
into 2021. So we do a lot of really cool things in that group, which is great. And then it's a small group coaching, and I do some individual coaching and some workshops, whatever people need. I really try to listen.
So it's
and
not
see.
always just the small group thing?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Now, I don't know if you've been doing the Drive Your Life long enough to actually track this, but do the participants stay in contact with each other afterwards?
Well, that's a great question. So,
And I don't know if you have access to that information.
yeah, so I love that question. So for the ones in the fall, when they went through the whole program,
Okay.
which for them was 14 weeks. Now the program now is 6 weeks, and then you can add 6 weeks. So it's really going to be a 12-week program if people
Okay.
want to stay with it. But through the last section of it, we pair up and we do what's called success partners.
Oh, okay.
And they work with each other. We have a whole system. And from what I hear, once the program ends, they continue. Because they
Cool.
got so comfortable calling each other and checking on each other to help each other move forward.
And that trust is...
And they just keep doing it. And then I also created a Drive Your Life Alumni Academy. So I have a Facebook group. If they complete the program, they can go into the Alumni Academy.
So
and
that's in
then-
addition to the other Facebook group.
And that's just for people that have finished the program. So
Okay.
they kind of speak the same language. They have the same, like, you know, lingo,
Mindset.
and then I do different trainings in there, and this is all new. So
Okay.
I do a training a month in there, and then like this month it's going to be, I think, about reset, and you know, in December it was about staying focused through the holidays, whatever is timely, and so it's a way for, and I do that on Zoom. So they all
Okay.
get back together, and they love that.
Oh, fun.
You know, so.
Now, where do you get your ideas for curriculum?
I mean, it literally just comes to me. It's kind of like, I don't know. It really, I don't search it out. It just sort of comes to me because I think because I also belong to a lot of women's networking groups, which are
Okay.
now virtual. So I sit
Everything's virtual now.
Right. You know, but I'm in a lot of meetings with 10, 15, 20, 30 women. I'm in a lot of women's Facebook groups, and I'm watching and I'm listening, and I can see what people are struggling with. And I
Okay.
try to really come up with the solution for that or the answer for that. And I think that's where it comes from.
Okay.
But otherwise, it just...
Because I'm thinking, where do you get all your ideas for, you know, the challenges and
Yeah. It just literally...
14 weeks of curriculum? I'm like,
Yeah, it sounds silly to say, it pops into my head. The curriculum builds as it goes,
Okay.
so I know like what I want to accomplish and that I'm creating. The sort of challenges and these different, like I do these Facebook Lives, I do it based on an idea that comes to me that I hope resonates with people.
well, it sounds like it does.
You know, one of the last lives that I did, this word kept popping into my head before I was doing it. I was thinking, like, what am I going to do this live on? Like, what's going to be meaningful? And this word kept popping into my head, and I thought, oh, all right. So I do this Facebook Live, and I say at the beginning, this word has been coming to me, and it's a really strange word, and it's kind of an old-fashioned word. And
You're going to have to tell me this
I'm
word
going
at
to
some
tell
point.
it to
Okay.
you. And it's probably, I say to them, and it's probably a word you've never even said before, and the word is squander.
Okay.
Right? And so I just kind of said,
I have heard that word before.
You've
I
heard
think
it,
I've used it before.
have
too.
you used it? Maybe.
Not recently, but
So
okay.
it's an unusual word, right?
It
Like,
is.
How would that pop? You know, and I just kind of said to them that, you know, we've been through this pandemic, and a lot of good has come out of it. I mean, I speak to a lot of women who say their family is closer and their lives have slowed down. They've seen a positive, but like we're done. You
Yeah.
know, they're just done now. And I just say, you know what? Like it's really not done. And even though it's a new year, and people think it's like turning a page, we still have a lot of the same challenges that we had before. And this is the only January of 2021, and don't squander it. And so the message was more about, you know, it may not be what you thought it was going to be
Okay.
quickly enough.
Life
but,
is never that way.
you know, but don't squander it. So I bring that up only because, like, I don't know, it just sort of came to me, and I thought if it came to me, I better tell them.
Exactly. Before I forget, write it down. I got to write stuff down or else I'll forget. If it's not written down, it's not going to happen. So you mentioned that the course is 6 weeks.
Yes.
So, and I think you just started one last night.
Yes.
Now, how often does the group meet?
Yeah. So
And is it like once a week?
yeah. So I ran 5 groups.
All
in
at the same time?
No, like
Oh.
staggered. So there have been 5 groups
Oh, okay.
since it started in the middle of the summer. And 3 are like graduated, and 2 are on the tail end. And then I started a morning and an evening group yesterday.
Oh,
So
okay.
those will be 6 weeks, and then they can keep going for another 6 weeks if they, you know,
Okay.
I feel like let them try it for 6 weeks and see how they like it,
Yeah.
and then if they want to continue, they can. So I'll probably run another group in March. I don't have a schedule yet,
Okay.
but
Now-
that's probably what I'll do.
If they continue the second 6 weeks, is it still the same group?
Yes.
So like if you
Yeah,
have
there's
8,
no mixing.
well, no, I'm just, I'm kind of curious because if you start with 8
Yeah.
and then only 4 wish to continue and 4 from this other group, do you combine? Oh, okay.
No, because they've built such they've just have so much layering of connection and experience,
Okay.
and they really know each other and they really care about each other. So I don't, because a smaller group just gives them more attention. So there's no negative to a smaller group.
Okay.
And for the most part, people stay. I mean, unless for some reason they can't, for the most part, they want to continue because they really want to get it done, you know? And what I see is sort of like a mixture. Sometimes people's goal is a very finite thing that's a start and an end. And a lot of times it's
Like cleaning my garage
like
or
cleaning your
basement,
garage.
or they both
Right.
need to get done, so.
Right. But a lot of times it's an ongoing process, like health and wellness. There's no beginning and ending to that.
Right.
You know, you're
well, there's a beginning. You got to start now.
right. But you know, you're setting up habits and routines, so that's that. Or you know, one of my clients wanted to just be more present with her family and enjoying that. Well, that's ongoing. So
Right.
those aren't things that have like a finite ending. So my goal for those people is to really teach them the skills to get what they want to get done and to continue doing it, and to be able to like check themselves and self-evaluate. And so they have to set up the habits, and that just doesn't happen overnight.
How do you keep? See, I'm also thinking about my journeys, and it's like, how do you keep motivated, or how do you keep them motivated? Because something like
Yeah.
a health and wellness,
Right.
Trying to eat healthier, and I want to go down there, and then just at some point you're like, this whole pandemic, just stick a fork in me, I'm done.
Yeah.
I want to go back to my old habits, or some of my old habits, not all of them.
Right.
So,
Well, I mean, that's the curriculum too. So I teach them a process to get going, to
Okay.
get into the driver's seat, to get moving. And then the second part, which is called pedal to the metal, is like a way to really get them going. And so that's the curriculum. It's about overcoming obstacles. It's about which direction to take. It's
Okay.
about how to like really get going. So that's the curriculum. And motivation comes from yourself, but it can come from a lot of other ways. So you can get motivation from an inspirational saying. You can get motivation from a coach. You can get motivation from the accountability of your group. So there's a lot of ways to get motivation. Even on a day that you wake up and you're just not feeling it,
yeah.
you can get motivation.
Because I keep thinking, some of the things that I've been trying to do, people ask me, well, what's your why? Why do you want to do this? And
Yeah.
I'm like, don't know.
Yeah. I think a why is good, but I don't think it's necessary.
I've since found that out, but back when it's like, oh, well, just find your why. Well, my why is lost, and it's not coming back anytime soon.
Well, and I think that I think a why is important if you've got it off the top of your head. But what I've learned is, as people are progressing toward what they want, the why really defines itself.
Okay.
They almost don't know why, but as they're attaining what they want
Okay.
and working on the goal, it really comes to the surface, and they're like, because as they're getting it, and they're like, this is why I did it.
Okay.
I think,
The little light bulb will eventually go on.
Yeah, and if they don't, it's okay, as long as they're moving forward, step by step.
So you had mentioned that you started this whole thing in the middle of a global pandemic.
Right.
And we are still in the middle of a global pandemic.
I know.
And who knows when that is going to end. But how do you see, or do you see any differences in people's whys, or in people's motivation, or in their goals, pandemic versus a non-pandemic setting?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. So when
And I don't know if you could answer it because
it's only been in it, but
Right.
yeah, but I think I could partially answer it. So when I created the process and the program,
Okay.
it was before the pandemic. So
Okay.
it wasn't directed or related to that. So that's that piece of it. But as it's progressed and as I talk to people about it, a lot of women have said, oh my God, this came at just the right time. We're all struggling. Well, you were probably struggling before, doing so many things. Maybe struggle's a strong word. You were probably, had a lot of balls in the air, juggling a lot of things, running on the hamster wheel, whatever you want to say. But now it's even more so. And I am in awe of these women who are somehow working from home and homeschooling and doing all these things. And so what I try to encourage women now is like, because I'll talk to people and they'll say, oh, I'm just so busy. I don't know if I can do this group. And I'm like, that's why you need to do the group, because you need to spend, I just said this last night. I said there's 168 hours in a week.
Okay.
Is it okay for you to take one? Like just 1 hour a week to just focus on you, whatever it is. And it makes a big difference.
Okay.
It makes a big difference in their outlook and how they feel about everything, because they're, it's that whole thing of, you have to fill up your own cup before you.
Exactly.
So, but as far as the pandemic goes, I feel like this was needed for women before. It's certainly needed now. And I just think at some point there's a breaking point.
Right.
And I think it's really important for women. And I'm not saying it's not important for men at all. My focus right now is trying to get women to really to see what they have inside. We do a whole thing about, what are you carrying around in the suitcase of you? What are your skills and traits and what wonderful things have you done through your life? And let's like applaud them and remember them and feel it's important.
Let's recognize them.
Yeah. And so, there's a lot I think that help that women need and deserve, and I want them to know that they do deserve it.
When we are allowed to meet safely in person, do you envision the Drive Your Life program to actually be physically non-virtual?
That's a great question. I don't know, because I don't know. It was not created that way. It was created on Zoom. We have I have a woman from California in a couple of my sessions. I have one from North Carolina. So I love the fact that people from around the country can be part of it.
Okay.
I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it, but I would rather have people get on the Zoom because it's more convenient than be in person and not show up.
Right.
Because they
have to stay home and watch their kids.
So I think there is a benefit to what we've learned about how, you can just jump right on a Zoom. So I don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to think about that.
I kind of discovered that myself. I'm like, my virtual life is becoming busier than my in-person life.
Yeah.
It's kind of frightening at the same time. So I'm just trying to think. Most of my Zoom experiences have been with the kids, whether it's the Girl Scouts or the Cub Scouts or, my kids' classes, their school. How do you make things interesting on a Zoom call? Because there's some things that you just need that physical interaction.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned role playing. Well, I can't imagine role playing on a Zoom call with the whole, checkerboard of people.
Yeah, I think it's challenging. And I also do public speaking, and it's so much harder when you're speaking, to a group of 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 people on a Zoom. It's harder to get that engagement. Mm-hmm. So in the small group, I think it's hard, but it's doable.
Right.
And if people are engaged, again, this isn't a course that like their boss told them they have to take.
Right. They want to be there.
They want to be there, mm-hmm. And so I don't. I'm lucky enough to say I don't feel like I've had a problem with it. And again, I feel like, it's up to them.
Okay.
This is their path, and this is their way to learn what they want and get it. Mm-hmm. And so if they're distracted or they're looking at something else, I feel like all I can do is provide the environment. And it's such group participation, though. That's the other thing. They all comment on each other, we comment back and forth. So and there's a lot of like exercises that we do, like they have different things they do and then they show each other. So there is a lot of
homework
engagement.
assignments type
Yeah,
thing?
I call them worksheets, but little exercises.
Can you give me an example of one?
I can't give you an example without telling what the program is. So I try to keep some of it under wraps. But just it might be a worksheet. It might be saying like, what are the 5 things you want to do, or what things. Very, very easy, not time consuming.
Okay.
But what I found is they think about it all week and then they do it toward the end. So it gets them thinking about what lesson we did, and I think that's really important. I just want them to get the most out of it.
Well, yeah.
You know,
one
that's
would
the
hope.
goal. Yeah, that's the goal.
So, do you have any favorite success stories?
Oh my God, I have so many great success stories.
Okay, tell me some.
Oh my gosh. So, you know, for health and wellness, like one of my clients really just did like a 180-degree turn. She found a trainer and she's working out with the trainer. She got her eating under control and she really did it. And it sounds
Cool.
like simple when I say it, but it's not easy at all. So she was a great example. We had one woman who lost her job due to COVID in March, and she was in the first group in the summer, and her goal was to get another job because she absolutely had to,
Right.
and then figure out really what did she want to do, so we did a whole lot of work around like what did she want to do. She couldn't do the last section of the thing because she got a job. So funny. And so
Well, that's a good thing,
Yeah, it's a good
but-
thing. She got a job and it was part-time. So that left her the space to figure out what does she want to do.
Okay. Now, did she end up changing careers?
Well,
or-
it's too soon to know.
Oh, okay, it's
That
too
was
soon
sort
to
of
know.
recent that she got the job. But it was just very interesting, you know, that part of it. One of the women, this is really interesting too. Sometimes when people try something new, they might go back to what they were doing. So we had this one woman who was like a renowned oil painter, like an artist.
Ooh.
Wonderful, wonderful woman. And she wanted to explore other parts of her art, like just to make it more fun. So we did this whole thing. She explored all these different art forms and showed us, and we were oohing and eyeing. And now toward the end, when we did like the recap in the alumni group, she said, you know what? She said, I'm back to oil painting. She said, I loved those other things, but it made me realize how much my heart is in oil painting.
Okay.
I was like, then
There you go.
that's a success. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. There's just been so many. We had one young woman who was a single mom that just like was trying very hard to get motivated to get back into the dating
Okay.
world, because for her,
And that's also a time management thing too, because if you have, young kids,
yeah,
then
and she's an entrepreneur too. And she did, and she was very grateful to just like get her feet wet and see what that felt like and be more confident. And then we've had people working on businesses. So because I also do business coaching, so we've had people make like really great strides in businesses. Just, I don't know.
it's like business plan type things?
Business
or-
planning,
okay.
business organizing, projecting,
Okay.
those kinds of things, moving forward. We had one woman who has an amazing invention, and she also was working full time. She had a child and a husband, and she couldn't wrap her head around making this thing, pushing it forward.
Okay.
And if you don't put focus on things, it's never going to just
Right.
happen, you know?
It's going to stay on that back burner. Oh,
Yeah.
wrong analogy. Sorry.
No,
It's going to
right.
stay in the trunk.
So, and even like, I mean, one of, I think, the most sort of important changes that I've seen is one of my clients just had no time for herself.
Okay.
You know, she had 2 children, she was working full time, she had pets, she had a husband, this and that. And she said, I kind of think I should spend some time on myself, which, yes,
Yeah, you
why not?
should.
And through the process, I mean, she really was able to, she got into the habit of spending an hour on herself most days. Not every day, not once a week though, like most days. And she said it's just changed everything for her. Do you know what I mean? So things like that maybe somebody listening would say, well, I have a lot of time for myself, but not everybody does.
Right.
Or a lot of people don't think they're worthy
Yeah.
because they always want to be doing for somebody else. So that's like a big change for people, you know?
So is there a big focus on time management?
Then that's another thing that people do is the time, I call it balance, like the time balance.
Okay.
Balancing time between, and that client I just told you about was a perfect example of that. She had to be able to balance her time so that she could get her work done. Okay? But she also had to be able to delegate at home.
Okay.
Or just let things go. Like at some point she
Right.
had to say, you know what? I need an hour to read this book. I need an hour to take a walk. I need an hour to call my girlfriend. And if that laundry is there tomorrow, then, I'm just saying, so yeah, I mean, but the time balancing is something that a lot of people struggle with
Okay.
because there's so much put on us. So that is something that you can work on too.
That I think everybody has a lot
Yes,
to work on.
everybody has a challenge with that.
So what are your plans in the next 5 years? Well, what are your plans post? Well, we already talked about post pandemic, but where do you see this going? Do you want to do more? Hire people to like train the trainer, and then grow it that way? Has your curriculum been copyrighted, or do they copyright it, or
You can copyright
Okay.
it. I mean, I guess
videos?
Yeah.
Or,
Well, because it's relatively new, I
Okay.
don't know the answer to that, except to say that, like, I really want to, spread the word and sort of get the message out to as many people as I can. So I have a book going. I put it aside when I started the groups because I really wanted to see how the groups would run and what the program was about. So I have to
Okay.
filter all that back into the book, and so then hopefully that will happen.
So you get to do some time balancing
Right,
on
I
your
know.
own.
So I hope to publish that book. I'm doing a whole bunch of speaking now this quarter.
Oh, wow.
Like I'm speaking for the Utah Women in Sales organization.
Does that mean you have to go out to Utah? Well,
No, it's all virtual.
Oh, it's all virtual.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, there's
So,
probably not a lot of traveling right now.
and a lot of women's networking events and things like that virtually. So that's a good way of spreading the word. And then I probably will have some like offshoots of the Drive Your Life program.
Oh,
In different topics like entrepreneurship, health, or empty nesters.
Oh.
Like I have a warm spot in my heart for empty nesters because I am one. So I think I think there's just a lot of segments that I could do. I don't know. We'll see. It's exciting to think
Now,
about
on these
it.
different branches, do you see your curriculum changing or your
Yes.
approach changing?
I mean, the Drive Your Life program and the process, the main program,
Okay.
that will stay the same. I mean, I don't feel a need or a reason to tweak it because I see that it's
Okay.
working. But the other segments, I will change the curriculum because
Okay.
I really want to help people with what they need. And the needs of an empty nester are going to be different than the needs of
An
somebody trying to
entrepreneur.
build a business or whatever. So yeah.
Now, as you know, when you were telling me the success story about the woman who ended up getting a personal trainer,
Yeah.
do you, in your approach, do you tell her you need to go find a personal trainer, or do you help them
Right.
try this or try this? Do you have like partnering organizations or partnering?
I haven't done anything like that yet, and
Okay.
it's not a telling process. I try not to be telling them,
Okay.
but I get them ready. I help them lay the foundation of what they want.
Okay.
What does it look like? How are they going to get it? And then it really helps them have the support to do it.
Okay.
Because she might have said, she actually did say, I've researched a whole lot of different phone apps. This was one of the things she said about, food and all these things. I'm researching all these different apps. And the group was like, that's great, that's great. And the next week I'm researching. And finally we were like, okay, now the researching is immobilizing you because you're spending all your time
Just pick one.
researching. And she did.
Oh, cool.
Do you know what I mean? So
Right.
sometimes it's just doing. It's just doing. The other quote that I love is, perfect is the enemy of done. It doesn't have to be perfect. It should be good, but once you start doing it, you can perfect it on the way.
Okay. Because I'm also thinking about, the researching thing and the researching thing. And when you had mentioned that you're the health and, you have this program that you believe in for the health and wellness, but one size doesn't fit all. One program does, So even through the research, if you start doing something, is it okay to say, that's not the right plan for me, let me back up and try something else?
You're saying for me or for a client?
For a client.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of swerves in the road, and that's fine.
Because a lot of times you don't want to, you meaning, the client, or we as individuals don't want to acknowledge that we made a mistake.
Yeah, so we talk about that, and I call that failing forward. So, in other words, if you had this goal in mind, and every time it didn't work out, or it took you too long, or you got sidelined, you said, what do we usually say? Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm a failure. Oh, we start to speak negatively to ourselves. Mm-hmm. I say, let's figure out, really, was that a failure, or was that just did we go this way? and why, and what can you do differently next time. So that's, instead of failing backwards, that's like failing forwards,
Okay.
right? So I kind of look at it as like the childhood game Chutes and Ladders. You're going to go up, and you're going to go down. And that's just how it is. And so we really try to keep a very positive outlook. We don't scold people. You know, we're really just trying to cheer people on and guide them.
Okay.
So that, you know, they might change their mind. And that's okay. But better to be in motion than to be sitting in the chair. You know?
You know, you're already ahead of the you know, if you start running, even if you only run the length of your driveway, you're still running further than the person sitting on the couch.
And it feels great to be doing something that you've wanted to do. I mean, there's just something about like feeling good about a goal or something that's kind of been either hanging over your head or whatever. And so that just feels good. And that helps you want to do other things. It gets you on a roll.
Okay. Because I was just thinking that, you know, you said perfection is you know, perfection and
The enemy of done, yeah.
An enemy of done. Well, once you're done something, do you continue on that role to see if you can perfect it, or do you just go on a different road? Yeah, I've reached this destination, now it's this other destination.
I don't see that so much, because I think when people find their way, they go. And there's a lot of different ways to accomplish things, right? If you want to clean out your basement, there's probably 5 different ways you could do that. There's a lot of different ways to accomplish things.
Bulldozer.
Right? I mean, there's lots of different ways to accomplish things.
Right.
But it's the accomplishing that's what's important, and that you feel good about it, and that you remind yourself how good it was that you wanted to do it, and you took the time to do it, and you did it.
And you did it, yay!
You know,
Time to celebrate.
And then you can do something else. And that's the other thing I love, is that a lot of the women that I work with, as they're working on their one goal, they'll say, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to do it with something else, and I'm going to do it with something else. And that's also what's interesting about the group, because they're usually working on all different things.
Right.
So it gives them the idea, oh my God, well, I'm helping her figure that out. Then I can do that for myself. Or I'm, you know. So I think that there's a lot of like sort of like forward motion overall as the group. So I look at it as like group accountability and individual accountability, because they do see each other succeeding.
And motivating others. And
Yeah.
But you know what? We have about 30 seconds left. I know, go figure. Any parting words? Although you just kind of ended on a really good note.
Yeah. I say, you know, I'm a big you do you person, but do it, you know. Figure out what you want, and don't be afraid to start getting going on it. Because if not now, when?
Good point. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Joining me, because we're socially distant in here. But no, it was interesting and motivating to hear what you have to offer. So
Thank you.
I wish you much success
Thank you.
in your next chapter.
Thanks.
Although I would like to see some of those cake pictures.
Yeah.
But I do also want to thank everyone for tuning in this evening. I hope that you are motivated and encouraged and thinking about heading down the correct pathway, the right road, I guess. Forward motion, think of Isaac Newton. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you around town. Good night.